Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into this really fascinating intersection between human biology and business strategy. We're looking at Consumer Insight Consulting's Sensory Training I program. It's all about how companies take something super subjective, like human taste, smell, and texture, and actually transform it into hard, objective data. Okay, let's dive into this. Have you ever wondered why some highly anticipated food products launch with massive marketing campaigns and huge brand backing, and then just quietly disappear from the shelves a few months later? The stakes in food product design are literally sky high. The reality is, brand reputation alone just doesn't guarantee success anymore. In today's market, the actual physical experience of consuming a product is the ultimate judge, jury, and executioner of its lifespan on the shelf. And this brings us right to the core conflict every food developer faces. On one hand, you have subjective impressions, those gut feelings. It's like when a product team tastes a prototype and someone says, "Yeah, I kind of feel like it needs more salt," or "It's a bit too sweet for me." Relying on those subjective impressions, that is a massive gamble. On the other hand, you have the actual solution, objective sensory data. This is what you need to reliably create products consumers will love. You simply can't just guess what the public wants, you have to measure it. So here's our roadmap for today's explainer. First, the product perception problem. Second, sensory science explained. Third, inside the one-day training. Fourth, from impressions to data. Fifth, the business ROI. And finally, logistics and enrollment. Let's get right to it. Section 1. The product perception problem, standing out in a crowded market. If you walk down any grocery store aisle, you're going to see dozens of incredibly similar products. The source material highlights a really critical warning here. Guessing what customers want is a huge business risk. When you rely on poorly conducted research, or honestly worse, just the opinions of a few executives sitting in a boardroom, it directly leads to bad product decisions. You end up with low consumer acceptance, totally wasted R&D budgets, and ultimately a complete loss of your competitive advantage. Basically, you just can't afford to get the recipe wrong. Section 2. Sensory Science Explained. The strategic tool. So the crucial point to understand is that sensory analysis isn't just about sitting around and eating snacks. Far from it. It's actually a highly interdisciplinary science. It's defined as a strategic tool that lets companies make informed product and marketing decisions by practically utilizing consumer senses. What this means in practice is establishing a structured, strategic evaluation process. It's where human senses, taste, smell, sight, touch, and even hearing are used almost like precision measuring instruments in a laboratory. Section 3. Inside the one-day training, your schedule. I absolutely love how practical this is. If you or your team attends this training, it is a highly focused one-day sprint. At 10 a.m., you dive right into sensory as a science. At 11 a.m., you analyze the human senses. Then, after a lunch break at noon, the real heavy lifting begins. At 1 p.m., you get into basic sensory evaluation techniques. By 2 p.m., you're learning proper tasting principles and panel preparation. And finally, at 2:30 p.m., you wrap the whole thing up by learning how to build a comprehensive product research plan. It just flows so perfectly from foundational theory straight into practical, hands-on application. Now, during that 11 a.m. module on human senses, a major paradigm shift happens. The course really drives home that quality is experienced with all 5 senses, not just taste. Just think about it for a second. The snap of a chocolate bar, that's hearing. In fact, studies actually show that potato chips taste staler to us if we can't hear the crunch. Crazy, right? The mouthfeel of a lotion or the texture of a cracker, that's touch. The aroma of coffee before you even take a sip, that's smell. If you're only optimizing for taste, you are literally missing 80% of the sensory equation that drives consumer trust and purchasing behavior. Moving on to Section 4. From impressions to data, the methodology. Now, what's really fascinating about these testing methodologies is that they are internationally recognized. We are not talking about random, casual taste tests here in the break room. The training covers strict ISO standard methods. For example, there's the triangle test, where you try to identify the odd one out among 3 samples. That's to see if a recipe change is actually noticeable to a consumer. Then there are duo-trio tests for matching a sample to a specific reference, and hedonic tests, which basically just measure how much a consumer actually likes the product. Because these all follow strict ISO standards, it guarantees that your results are reliable, repeatable, and completely scientifically sound. This entire framework really boils down to a core 4-step transformation. Step 1, you start with those messy, subjective impressions we talked about. Step 2, you run them through those strict ISO testing methods. Step 3, that process filters out all the noise and extracts objective, structured data. And finally, step 4, management uses that hard data to make highly accurate product decisions. You optimize the recipe, you improve the quality, and you perfectly match consumer preferences without any of the guesswork.
Section 5. The Business ROI. Why invest in sensory science?
Look, training your in-house team is a strategic investment, and it's absolutely crucial to understand the exact return on that investment. When you train your staff to generate objective sensory data, the business benefit is massive risk reduction. You basically stop launching flops. When you properly align all 5 senses in your product, you instantly increase your competitiveness because your product actually stands out in that crowded market. Superior quality control directly leads to customer loyalty, and when a product hits all the right sensory notes, it creates a real emotional experience, which ultimately leads to a much stronger brand attachment. But hey, you don't just have to take the theory's word for it. There's this really powerful client testimonial from the source material that says this collaboration brought a new level of rigor and consistency to our product evaluation process. Other reviews noted that decisions became faster, clearer, and entirely data-driven. That right there is the kind of social proof that validates the immediate impact this one-day training has on cross-team collaboration and daily operations. It's a real game changer. And our final section, number 6. Logistics and enrollment. Fast facts. The logistical details here are super straightforward. The target audience includes your R&D teams, quality assurance folks, brand managers, and existing sensory specialists. The group size is kept deliberately intimate, between 8 and 15 participants, just to make sure everyone gets plenty of hands-on practice. It's a one-day commitment running from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., and the price point is incredibly accessible at just €600 per participant. Honestly, for the strategic advantage it gives you, that's just a drop in the bucket compared to the massive cost of a failed product launch. I really want to emphasize this specific number for a second, 6. This isn't just a day of sitting back and zoning out to lectures. You are getting 6 full hours of intense, practical exercises, real product tasting, and hands-on workshops. You walk away with full training materials, implementation guidelines, and a certificate confirming your brand new competencies. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I'll leave you with this final thought. Think about the next big product your company is developing right now. Are those absolutely crucial product decisions going to be based on a guess or just a feeling in a boardroom? Or are they going to be based on reliable, objective sensory data? It's time to stop guessing and start measuring. If you want to empower your team to design products that truly win the market, upgrading your sensory analysis skills with a training like this is definitely the next step. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one.